Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm here to answer a question that absolutely no one is asking. Which giant is best? Now, 4 units in the game have access to the giant, Beastmen, Norsca, Warriors of Chaos, and of course the green skins. And giants right now are pretty decent. 1500 points gets you high melee attack and massive weapon strength, low armor and pretty slow, but they do hit very, very hard. So today we're going to be looking at a few replays featuring double giants and monster-oriented builds. So just quickly to go through things here, the reason that we've got this guy, the Beast Lord, on foot is he's got a number of buffs that synergize very well with the giant blob. Horn of the First Beast gives extra leadership, charge bonus, and more importantly, melee attack. Same thing with this Apocalyptic Vision. We can use them one after the other to get lots of melee attack for the long term. And he's also got this armor-piercing Bloodlust, castable on any ally, and of course gives extra armor-piercing damage. Since giants do massive AP, will be very good on them. We've got Butchers of Kalkengard for a bodyguard unit, Eye of Morsleep to be just another monster, and we've got a Bray Shaman here to summon more Cygors, because you can never have enough big, smashy monsters. Got a couple of Ungor Raiders here, just some spears, and the Blackhorns Ravagers for a thin line of infantry. We're up against Sadal's Lizardmen here. He's got lots of Skink Cohort and some Saurus. Mazdamundi up on Zlok here, a Saurus Scarvet on a Carnosaur, and some Skinks coming in as well. So right off the bat, we're going to get a Banishment in the back line, and some very good damage going down across the field here. You can see the Saurus Scarvet does get the Warp Gaze on him, pinning him in place. I'm going to charge these Butchers of Kalkengard into Saurus Spears. They'll do okay there since the Saurus Spears weren't braced. But it looks like the Plaque of Domination there, Dominion rather, as the leadership debuff triggers. Not actually going to allow those Ungor Spearmen to get routed off since they didn't get charged there, but you can see Horn of the First Beast on the Cygor there, increasing his melee attack to 80, so he can definitely get some hits in on this Scarvet. You can see Mazdamundi making his way over. He drops that shield of the old ones, and the Giant's going to come in now as well. Looks like he gets netted there. And the Saurus Scarvet's probably going to try and pull away here. Getting mashed on by 2 monsters is definitely a bit of a problem. But, yeah, looks like we are summoning up another Cygor there to get Mazdamundi pinned in. Now, he's with the Giant and the Butchers of Kalkengard here, as well as the Cygor. So he is pretty well pinned in at this point. He's going to be taking quite a bit of damage. You can see he is very rapidly losing out on HP there. So just the idea here is to use the Giants in a monster mash and try and counter enemy monsters as much as possible. Since the Beastmen tend to be weak against, big armored monsters, they don't have a ton of good anti-large AP. Gorbulls are okay. Minotaurs with great weapons are pretty terrible, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, Giants don't necessarily have anti-large, but they certainly have the melee attack and weapon strength to get it done against these large targets. You can see the Eye of Morsleep taking some damage here. The Summoned Cygor able to pitch some rocks here as he has been, kind of zoned out here pretty well. Butchers of Kalkengard going to jump over here on the Saurus as we get the Beast Lord fighting in here as well. I believe some of his items do need to be in melee to recharge, so I need to keep him in here so that he can get his support buffs ready. Meanwhile, up on the high ground, you can see the lizards swarming pretty effectively. The Carnosaur is going to come in here with Mazdamundi and be able to kind of solo the... I guess not solo, but gang up on the Eye of Morsleep here. Actually gets just bodied by that Scarvet. Absolutely tackled there, so that's pretty good. And obviously, my summons are going to be wearing off, which will normalize the balance of power pretty significantly, but we'll see. I do have a big tear route over here of some hounds that had been hidden in the woods. My Ungor Raiders as well, getting chased off. Some of them coming back. But, yeah. Hopefully we get these hounds back. It looks like one unit actually flees right off the side. The other one is going to come back to be useful in the late game. So, interesting situation. You can see these Saurus, though, getting beat down pretty hard. Looks like a Harmonic Convergence on that Saurus Scarvet to give him some extra stats here. But another Cygor summon in the late game. Going to be very powerful as the Bray Shaman, of course, with his Jagged Dagger. He does need to be in melee to recharge that as well. But he's been soaked in the melee blob as much as possible here also. We'll see, though. Lizards, obviously, with the healing of Mazdamundi and these big monsters are all still alive, can come back in this late-game situation. So, using the Summoned Cygor here just to kind of block things up and, again, get a little bit of damage on Mazdamundi, potentially. Eye of Morsleep, though, is not doing too hot. You can see it is taking a lot of damage here. Leadership not doing great as well. Looks like this Banishment going to go down, but there's actually not a whole lot of Beastmen infantry here. This is mostly actually going to do friendly damage, but it's all good. Might at least stagger that Bray Shaman. Oh no, he just charges straight through, no problem. Yeah, bit tough there, but the Giants, you can see, are starting to take some damage. They've been worn down a bit just through attrition, but Sadow's monsters here definitely suffering pretty badly. Meanwhile, the Beast Lord has taken a lot of missile damage from this Skink Chief on foot. Likewise, the Beast Lord, has been taking damage also from the Saurus. I mean, 70 armor is okay, but Saurus with their 50 weapon strength will be able to make consistent contact with him. And this is one of the problems with Giants. You can see him just loping along, trying to catch this Saurus Garvet. Most monsters are faster than Giants, so you definitely got to try and stay tight. You can see I'm getting a little bit separated here. Going to try and get things back together. Thankfully, the Eye of Morslip came back from route, and we are going to be able to throw a few Vile Tides in this late game here, since all of the Cygor summons have been expended and also have faded away at this point, so the balance of power starting to drop back towards even as my Beast Lord is getting routed at this point. He gets terrified, doesn't have the greatest leadership, still plenty of health though, and I love how he comes back from route right in the middle of this monster mash. Oh man, Giant getting absolutely beaten up here, but able to punch back pretty effectively. Does get staggered quite a bit by the Carnosaur, but unfortunately the Skink Chief doing a bit of friendly fire there on the Carnosaur is not the best. The Minotaurs I pull back so they can regen their HP a bit. We're going to get another charge. They do have quite a few unit models left, so I can potentially heal them up quite a bit here. And this charge does do some pretty good damage to those Saurus, and then eventually they connect on Mazdamundi as well. And the one Giant is just about to fall here, but giving Mazdamundi some bad breath for good measure. And then, yeah, also coming in to try and whack the Giants, or the Mazdamundi's head, rather. Slock's head, I guess, really. But yeah, it's a pretty pitched late game engagement here as the Beast Lord is still hanging on. Horn of the First Beast once again being popped, giving melee attack to everything. Unfortunately, that Giant gets routed, but 2 XP chevrons, 54 kills, down to about 400 HP. You can see the infantry are not really wanting to hold too long. Thankfully, the extra leadership of the Horn of the First Beast, very key in keeping these Butchers of Kalkengard in the fight. Even though there's only a few models here, they're still able to get in, get a few attacks here and there. And it's going to be too much for Mazdamundi as he gets routed off. Does push the balance of power pretty heavily in my favor, but you can see the Beast Lord is barely hanging on here. It's mostly the fact that I have these two big monsters still left. The Eye of Morslip still pounding it out with the rocks from a distance, and the Giant, of course, here as well. But yeah, there is still the Skink Chief holding the Lizardmen's leadership together. Unfortunately, these Chameleon Skinks, and say unfortunately, they have used up all of their ammo, which is great, but at this point, they don't have any more ammo to try and support. I do have a handful of Raiders here, and these Hounds as well, just kind of sitting in the back. Mazdamundi does come back from route, but his armies are getting pretty close to army losses at this point, and that hit right there does quite a bit to the Chameleon Skinks. Raiders able to fire in here to support the Beast Lord. And he's definitely still fighting. Fighting like a cornered beast, if you will. Okay. Yeah, pretty fun battle. Well played to Sadow there. And yeah, Beastmen, Double Giant, definitely very strong. Just in general, especially with the Beast Lord, the buffs specifically that he has synergize very well with the Giants. Of course, you could run with Malagor and throw like Mantle of Garok as well. But for me, I just decided in this build to really go heavy on the monsters and bring the Cygor summon in addition. Use them in melee to just really overpower the Lizardmen monsters. But yeah, the Beast Lord specifically with his double attack buff, the AP buff, very strong candidate. And the fact that Beastmen, can summon Cygors and also have Cygors to synergize with the Giants definitely makes them a strong front runner for the best Giants in the game. But let's take a look at a few others. Alright, so it turned out to be the ugliest of all the Giants, the Norscan Giant here. Look at that arrow already sticking out of his head. I mean, we haven't even gotten started, dude. Where have you been? Anyway, the thing about the Norscan Giants is they come with the ability to take a Mammoth. And yeah, Mammoths also, or the Norscan Lords on Mammoths, rather, have access to this Fight or Die, which is another good melee attack buff. Unfortunately, Wulfric doesn't have any other attack buffs, but he does have Hunter of Champions, so specifically if you're facing a Lord-level monster, this Hunter of Champions will let the Norscan Giants put a beating on them. We're up against Turin's Vampire Counts this time. He's got Old Manny von Karstein and a Terrorgeist, 2 units of Blood Knights, pretty wide build with some Spearmen, some Zombies, lots of Chaff here, and the Claw of Nagash, Regiment of Renowned Mortis Engine. Got some Ice Wolves and the Beasts of Tashnar here. Almost called them the Dire Pack. They're basically like the Dire Pack. Got 2 Marauder Champions here, a front line of Marauders, and of course the Double Giants. Lore of Fire this time with the Bale Fiend with Kindle Flame, of course, for the extra fire weakness to fire, rather. Flaming Sword of Ruin, Burning Head, and Cascading Fire Cloak specifically. Very good for Giants, extra melee defense and AP damage. AP damage, of course, they have already, so it just makes them that much better. Melee defense is something that they do lack, so quite helpful there. You can see Turin coming in for an early charge. I'm going to go ahead and buff up Wulfric the Wanderer here and try and catch in this Terrorgeist, give everyone flaming damage as well. So get a really big hit on the Terrorgeist there, and this Giant gets singled out here by the Blood Knights. We are able to get a Hunter of Champions on Manfred here to debuff him a little bit. The Giant is definitely going to do some damage to these Blood Knights in return, and the second Giant also coming in here, so you can see Turin is able to just about pick this Giant out, but at the same time, he's taking massive damage on this Terrorgeist, on Manfred, and on this unit of Blood Knights. So a pretty rough situation there. Skeleton Spears coming in to bog these Marauders down. The Marauder Horsemen should be able to fight off Fellbats in the backline, no problem, but they are being tied down at the very least for now. Turin coming forward with his infantry now, and yeah, Breath Attack doesn't make that great a contact on the Giant, unfortunately. You can see these Blood Knights are actually crumbling. We're going to get them with the Dire Pack and the Ice Wolves just to do a bit of extra damage here. That Anti-Large and Frostbite means that these Hounds will be able to get really good contact here. We do have to be careful, though. Of course, the Claw of Nagash and these the Terrorgeist, Manfred, all dropping down, so I do need to pull back from that situation if I can. I did manage to bail this Giant out with just a bit of HP, but a nice charge now coming from these Blood Knights, just running over those Marauders, trying to get rid of that infantry support. But we are able to follow up with this unit of Champions here, and Champions' 35 run speed is actually pretty good for heavy infantry. There are definitely heavy infantry that are quite a bit slower, but yeah, those Blood Knights did take quite a bit of damage from the Champions, all said and done at the end of the day. In the Monster Mash, though, the Mammoth with the Giants doing pretty well. This Giant, once again, though, gets singled out, and because it's very low, probably going to get taken down. Does have flaming magic damage, so it does some good damage to the Claw of Nagash. I guess it does have magic resistance as well as the weakness to fire, but still. Wulfric comes in, and this is exactly what you want. When you're fighting with single entity models, you want to try and all move them in on different directions so that you can get like a surround from multiple sides. Yeah, unfortunately, this Giant actually came back from route with less than 100 HP left, but he is likely done for. The Breath Attack in the face actually finishes him off there, so he's going to take a nap. Terrorgeist is barely holding its leadership together, just about at its healing cap already, and I am aggressively pursuing with my Hounds here, trying to get on this Claw of Nagash. Manfred responds with a zombie summon here to try and see those Hounds away. Looks like they probably will be routed, but Balefiend doing okay for now. My Marauder Horsemen are being screened out by those zombies pretty well, and likewise, these Blood Knights also have taken quite a bit of damage from these Champions. Turin's been continuously cycle charging them, but I don't think he realized originally that these were actually Champions. You can see they do take quite a bit of impact damage from the charge there, but then they kind of hold out, start to get some attacks back. A really nice Burning Head as well. I try and move my own Champions out of the way. They take a little bit of damage there, but mostly just clears out all those zombies in the center there, so with the Chaff getting cleared out, we should be able to focus on some high-value targets at this point. The Terrorgeist is definitely struggling at its healing cap, but I throw that Cascading Fire Cloak on the Balefiend just to make sure his melee defense is high enough that he won't get killed here. Wulfric's Boat going to be unleashed there. Actually, didn't quite hit those Blood Knights. I was hoping it would actually frostbite them as well, but definitely did some good damage to the troops in the center pocket here, and you can see one Giant still fully operational, and the Mammoth, of course, as well, doing a ton of damage here. Mammoths with massive weapon strength also, 525. That sweet Flaming Sword of Ruin giving everyone flaming damage. And the Sternsmen were mixed in here as well. Regiment of Renown Graveguard, they of course are weak to fire, and they're going to be taking massive damage now from the Mammoth and the Giant both. So pretty good stuff there. The Balefiend gets a little bit wild, but he is able to draw these big, expensive entity models back into the flaming damage aura, and the Giant got a couple of really, the Mammoth got a couple of really critical attacks there on the Claw of Nagash, and it looks like it's just about done for at this point, barely holding its leadership together and HP, but one more hit should finish it off here. I'm desperately trying to do so, and it looks like, there we go, gets one more hit there, and it goes into disintegration and actually falls, so one high-value target down. You can see that has shifted the balance of power pretty significantly in my favor. Manfred now just takes a couple of big old bops from Wulfric, and the second Giant, still holding out like an absolute champ here, gets charged by some Blood Knights, Just takes a nice swipe straight to their faces. I'm impressed those Blood Knights didn't all immediately die. But yeah, you can see the Bale Fiend still holding out as well. Oh, that's gotta smell terrible. I mean, these guys have noses, right? I think it's just Vlad who's missing a nose. Yeah, they do. Okay. So they can definitely smell that with their vampiric noses. Definitely smells absolutely terrible, but Hound's coming in for a rear charge here just to make sure these Blood Knights can't get away. You unleash the boat as well, and that should be just about enough to trigger army losses. We're getting pretty close. Oh, a direct hit right on that Terrorgeist back there. Wolfric also gets a hit in, and it is done for. It just crumbles away immediately, and that should be army losses. Looks like Disintegration hits. Manfred can't even quite get on the ground, and that'll be game. So, well played to turn. As for the Norscan Devil Giant, I mean, obviously the fact that you can synergize it with the Mammoth as the third monster option, definitely very strong. Norscan champions also make great supporting infantry because of their high melee defense and high armor. Yeah, they just generally are able to kind of grind it out with the Giants supporting them. And yeah, Lore of Fire, definitely a good way to support as well. Lore of Shadows, also with the Bale Fiend, could be pretty decent. Lore of Metal, you guys saw me use in the replay the other day against the Greenskins for the Troll replay. I'll have a link down in the description below, by the way, because I actually don't have a Greenskins replay to show you. So if you do want to see the Greenskin Giant in action, be sure to check that game out. But as for the Norscan Giant, yeah, I think because you don't have maybe the same amount of attack buffs, I don't know if it's quite as strong as the Beastmen Giant, but it's definitely still very strong because of the Mammoth synergy there. And yeah, against a faction like the Vampire Counts, definitely can be very helpful to have these big stompy monsters. So let's go ahead and move on. We've got one more to get to today, so let's get to it. Alright, and last but certainly not least, we've got the Chaos Giant. So, of course, for the Warriors of Chaos, we've got Double Giant again against the Lizardmen. We're going to be facing off against Dutch Skink this time. And the third monster option for this battle is Kolek Suneater, a Shaggoth, of course. Able to synergize very well again with the Double Giant here. We've got Lore of Fire once again. I was thinking about Lore of Metal, but since the Lizardmen monsters tend to have good AP, and I'm not necessarily worried about mass missiles, I decided not to bring Lore of Metal. I would say if you're worried about a lot of non-armor piercing missiles, Glittering Robe from Lore of Metal is very good for Giants. Also, Transmutation of Lead to debuff your opponent's melee attack can synergize very well with them also. But for this time, decided to go with Lore of Fire once again. We've just got Fireball and Cascading Fire Cloak this time for a nice cheap kit. The rest of the army consists of some Marauders. We've got some Hounds also, the Mini Koleks, Summoners of Rage, and yeah, some Horsemen. Pretty straightforward build, not too much heavy infantry. We've definitely gone heavy on the monsters, though. Same thing for Dutch Skink here. He's got the Regiment of Renown, Dread Saurian, the Shredder of Lustria. Since its buffs, it's actually really strong now. The melee, or sorry, the leadership debuff especially can be very good in some situations. It's got a Feral Carnosaur to back him up, and Gorok, so a lot of AP, you know, duelist stopping power there. A Skink Priest Lord of Heaven's up there who did take a Fireball already, and the Skinks on the ground. Lots of red crests here who have already gotten involved in melee against these Marauders, giving them the absolute business here with their little boppers. They'll trade very efficiently there. Over here, of course, with the Summoners of Rage and the Hounds, it's just going to be a bit much for the poor little Skink Bros to get through, so yeah. Meanwhile, in the Monster Mash, you can see here that the Giants get an absolutely bodied, just thrown to the ground there. Cascading Fire Cloak again to buff the melee defense, and although Chaos doesn't have the melee attack buff, instead they have the Stand or Die melee defense buff. That can be very decent for the Giants as well, of course, because they do have pretty low melee defense. Looks like we've got a Curse the Midnight Wind here, so that's going to be debuffing the melee attack of these Giants. Definitely a very strong play because Giants have such high melee attack. You know, it's definitely good to debuff that. The armor, of course, not quite so impactful here, but certainly that area of effect, melee attack debuff, very good. Unfortunately, it's not really saving the Skinks too much here, but of course the focus is on the monsters, and the Carnosaur unfortunately taking some serious damage. Chaos Giant, though, at the same time, getting some return fire pretty decently, so it's definitely going to be quite the battle here between these big monsters. The Summoners of Rage also being in here to support once again. Just having that monstrous infantry presence alongside the 3 big monsters is a lot to have to deal with. And Gorok being in here is definitely helpful. You can see him putting an absolute beating on Kolek here, and Kolek just starts taking a ton of damage. Really, really not good. So we're going to continue to throw fireballs at that Skink Priest up in the air. Kolek's going to have to pull away here as he is getting absolutely destroyed by Gorok and that Carnosaur. At the same time, though, that leaves the 2 giants to double team on the Shredder of Lustria along with the Summoners of Rage. They're doing consistent damage here to the Shredder. You can see it hasn't taken any chunks there, but there it takes a couple little chunks. So we do need to be careful not to get singled out there, but single entity combat generally involves a lot of RNG, so definitely need things to go in my favor. Looks like we got the standard die to buff the Giants' melee attacks. Some units coming back from route all across the field, so we're going to try and chase skinks off if we can. I've got some marauders way out in the boonies chasing those the skink javs rather. But yeah, the Carnosaur is just about taken down at this point, and it looks like he may actually fall. Looks like actually able to scurry away there. And one issue with the Giants is they do tend to get staggered and knocked over by other monsters, other heavier monsters that is. And this Giant actually goes down, just KO'd by the Shredder of Lustria and Gorok there. And oh man, Gorok just runs in and steel chairs one of those Summoners of Rage as well. Such an awesome game, man. Giant delivering the hammer though. Kolek very close to routing here. Comes in for a rear charge, and likewise the Skink Priest Lord of Heavens also comes for a rear charge, but Kolek gets a very critical cascading fire cloak here to put him up to 79 melee defense, turns around and just whacks the Skink with the help of the Chaos Sorcerer here on a rear charge, and that definitely will do some pretty good damage to the balance of power, losing out on the caster. Likewise, both of these Lizardmen monsters stand your ground, currently active to buff up their melee defense, but they are getting very, very low. Oh man, Giant continuing to just get bodied here, and you can see the Summoners of Rage also starting to run out of unit models. Looks like they actually got routed off there, so it's still very, very close at this point. Kolek Sun Eater having taken a lot of damage, and that little skink machine gun on the back, their little mounted blowpipes are just going to continue to fire in at whatever targets as well, so definitely need them to not shoot Kolek or the Giant, preferably, but the Shredder of Lustria actually gets routed here down to only 600 HP, and with that routing, you can see the Carnosaur also routes, and that is going to leave Gorok alone here against these 2 big world beaters. And although he is quite the champion himself, I don't know if he can really stand up to both of these 2. He takes a couple hits from Kolek there. Kolek with the Cascading Fire Cloak and the Fighter Die both. Mace of Olmec on Gorok, though, to buff his melee attack, so it's anyone's game at this point. And the Fireball, oh, a swing and a miss there. I don't know how you miss a Dread Saurian. That Chaos Sorcerer is officially fired. Get it? Okay, never mind. Gorok takes a couple of hits there that are going to trigger army losses, and that will be game. So, yeah, triple-double Giant. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. As for Chaos, I mean, the defensive buffs for Chaos are quite nice. Having access to standard die is definitely pretty strong. And let's just talk a little bit more about very, very awesome performance, by the way, from Dutch Skink. Don't want to diminish that. He definitely played that about as well as he could. But like I said, single entity combat generally involves a lot of RNG. So honestly, that could have gone either way, but ended up just barely going in my favor there at the end. But yeah, so double Giants, Norsca, Greenskins, Warriors of Chaos, and Beastmen. So just to kind of round things out here, Warriors of Chaos are very good. I think, I don't know, the lack of attack buffs is a little bit of a problem. Chaos actually doesn't have any melee attack buffs. So the closest thing you can really get is to use like Enfeebling Foe from Lore of Shadows, which is definitely very strong. Giving that to a specific monster and having the 2 giants beat it to pieces is very good. Likewise, if you do take Lore of Shadows, specifically with the Giants, Pendulum, of course, can help clear out if they create some blobs. Or you can also take Occam's Mind Razor, specifically because Giants already have pretty good melee attack and high armor piercing. Occam's Mind Razor will give them a lot of extra AP, and as well, the magic damage can be good in certain situations if you're fighting a monster with physical resistance like Malekith or Lewin, something like that. Yeah, generally though, I would say, again, if you're facing a lot of non-AP missiles, you can take this Glittering Robe to give extra armor, or Lure of Fire is also a very strong combination with that Cascading Fire Cloak. As for the green skins, of course, Wa synergizes super well with Giants, the extra, melee attack and everything. The fact that you can also get standard die with some leaders like Grimgor, also pretty strong. Grimgor is pretty cheap to kind of stick in that monster blob to act as an additional source of AP and leadership. And of course, the standard ground plus Wa is also very strong. The charge bonus and melee attack. Likewise, Sneaky Stabbin', specifically because of the armor piercing damage, very good for Giants. It's also super cheap to cast, so you can take this guy with just that and Sneaky Stealin' if you want to, if you're up against magic using faction. And just get this and spam it out for super cheap on your Giants. Likewise, for lore of the Big Wa, Fists of Gork is also very strong for Giants, of course. That extra melee attack and defense both will help them just connect with that massive weapon strength. So either of those two options make the Greenskins Giant super strong option. Wa might make them a contender for the top. I think, honestly, that they're tied with the Beastmen in my eyes. The Beastmen, just because the Beast Lord here specifically has really good buffs. I mean, granted, he's not that great of a hero on his own, so he is a little bit of a liability in that way. Kazarak does have the Apocalyptic Vision, but he does not have the secondary area of effect attack buff of the Horn of the First Beast, so really I think the Beast Lord is going to be your best option there. Likewise, as I mentioned, if you do take Lore of Beasts and you choose not to go for the Cygor summon, Mantle of Grok is exceptionally powerful on Giants. I mean, it basically puts them over 100 melee attack and also massively increases their weapon strength as well. Lore of Beasts is okay. For supporting, I mean, the extra physical resistance and speed of Pants Pelt can be okay. Not the best in the world, but of course Beastmen also have shadows, and as I mentioned, Enfeebling Foe is a pretty good synergy there as well. Norsca, just to round things out, I think kind of sits in the middle of the pack. If Beastmen and Greenskins Giants are up on top, Norscan Giants are definitely pretty strong, and in a roster with Mammoths, sometimes get overlooked. But consider taking Double Giant with your Mammoth next time you do, because of course they do synergize very well, that fight or die. Likewise against heroic monsters, specifically Hunter of Champions, very strong. And again, you have access to metal, fire, or shadows, should you so choose. So that's my breakdown of Giants for the day. 1,500 points for a big, beady monster is actually reasonably cost-effective, especially with the right buffs. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.